The paranormal, it's bizarre, often bizarre. It's weird in a lot of ways. Many try to explain it, and I don't know that we can really explain a lot of it. A lot of paranormal things have happened to me throughout my life, through different points of my life, but it's been the most active in the last almost 5 years. It's been, well, yeah, I guess say now 5 years. It's been around 5 years since this horrific breakup I had that I speak about in the last video, a couple other videos, that at one point I thought, like what they say in New Age, I thought it was twin flames, but now I don't believe that. But I do believe there was a soul to soul thing that was meant for me, at least, to do self reflection and look at my life. And I talk a lot about that in the previous video. But the paranormal parts that happened after this breakup were substantial. And I've tried to make sense of a lot of it. It's very difficult. But going back before that, I had some things happen that were significant as well. I've had an interest in paranormal for a long time, probably my whole life. Since childhood, I would say I was somewhat dark, one of these kids that liked gloomy weather, liked thunderstorms, where a lot of people would be terrified when a thunderstorm arose. I was all about those, even though I had anxiety. But for some reason, I'm one of those people that don't like amusement park rides, things like that. But bring on a thunderstorm or something like that, take me into a graveyard, take me into cemeteries at night, haunted houses, that kind of stuff I love. I like that kind of stuff. And as a kid, I remember being like that, liking the fun houses, the haunted houses, all of that. Liking horror movies growing up, that sort of thing. So if we go back before this breakup occurred in December of 2019, go back to, say, around 2016, I was in another relationship, and the girlfriend I had at that time lived here in this apartment with me. And I guess we had been together 3.5 years maybe at that time. And we formed a paranormal group because she had those interests as well. We had a lot of the same interests as far as horror, paranormal. We both liked Zach Bagans, Ghost Adventures. So we formed a paranormal group and brought in one of her friends, and we called it Shadow Seekers. And we decided we would try our hand at it. Looking back on it, were we very organized and put together completely to really take on something like that? To really be successful at it? Probably not. I would say we all had flaws in how much work it would have took to really have really gotten noticed with it. But we did do a couple of investigations that we all experienced stuff together that we couldn't explain. Like, we went to Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Louisville, Kentucky. We did an overnight there. Now, we were with other people. It was one of those things where you go from like midnight to 5 a.m. and I think there was 5 floors in this place. There's no power. They have some staff, but there's a few staff members. They take you on a floor at a time for, say, 45 minutes to an hour, let you just wonder. You can bring your own ghost equipment like spirit box or EVP recorder. We had those. We also had night vision cameras, so you can try to pick up stuff. The only thing is, when you're in a place like that with other people, even though we did go off on our own, there is a possibility of contamination, because even with people off in the distance doing their own thing, you could pick up possible voices or things from the distance. You have to keep that in mind if other people are in the building with you. But still yet, it was a weird type of experience. I experienced psychic phenomena there I can't explain, where I felt compelled to go into a room where I felt like I could feel the patient that had possibly been in that room. Can I prove that? No, it's just a psychic impression I felt like I had on myself. I remember getting sad. I remember almost crying, but I didn't feel like they were my emotions. I felt like it was this person that I was feeling in that room. Things like that are things that I feel like you just have to experience for yourself, and there's no way to solidly prove a psychic experience. Are some psychics out there frauds? Of course. There's frauds in so many things in this life, and there's no exception to it with the paranormal. You have psychic frauds that take advantage of people. You have paranormal people on TV that probably are faking some of those experiences. I think some are probably really happening, and then some are not. You know, for instance, on the paranormal shows, like say Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, there's so many of those shows, right? They'll say, oh, we're talking to this spirit, we're talking to this person. How do they know? I mean, could they be picking up on something with a spirit in a place? Could they be getting spirit voices? Could they have seen something on night vision? Could they be having a psychic feeling on themselves like I have had before? Yeah, but how do you know you really, beyond a shadow of a doubt, 100% know that you're talking to that specific spirit? On those shows, a lot of times they'll spin a narrative like that, but you really don't know, because while you could be communicating with something, that's just it. It could be imitating anything because you can't see it. Any spirit, entity, anything like that in an unseen realm is going to have the advantage, because it can imitate something else and make you feel like it's something else. And I believe that's happened to me before too. But going back to Waverly Hills, I had that experience. And I would say the other big one that I had there was we wanted to try something we had seen Zach Bagans do at Waverly Hills years ago. When Ghost Adventures went there, he laid in the morgue there. It's very dark, of course, but I wanted to try it. We all three did take a turn in it. I would say we all had an interesting feeling about it, but again, I feel like I got a very clear psychic impression, except this one was overwhelming to me. I was not prepared. I only laid in it for like maybe 30 to 45 seconds, I'm guessing, and I got really hot, really flushed, and felt like at least something was trying to connect to me. I really think more than one type of entity or spirit was trying to somehow attach to me. But again, it's something you can't just solidly prove. These are things that you have to go out and try for yourself, I feel like. People would denounce it. People would just say you're full of shit. People just want to do that because they've never had an experience. But if you go out and try this stuff for yourself, it's just like anything. You try meditation, you see if it works. You try to get involved in spiritual matters. You see what works, what doesn't. You try to learn about psychic phenomena. See if it works for you. See if it doesn't. These are things that you have to just have your own experiences with. And then I will tell you this, once you have an experience, so you're not going to let somebody tell you it didn't happen, because how the hell do they know? They wasn't there and they didn't go through it. So I say to hell with that. You know what you went through, especially if you're with other people and they're having similar experiences to you. So Waverly Hills was interesting as far as getting involved in a place that had a very dark history and had been a former tuberculosis hospital, and a lot of people had passed away there. Now, we did go to another place, though, where more profound things happened to all three of us, because we were in this place by ourselves. We rented out this abandoned hospital, and this was called Old Lincoln County Hospital, and I'm assuming it's probably still standing, but we went there in we went there twice. We went there in 2016, but I think we went the next year. We might have went both times in 2016, or we might have went in 2017 as well. But the guy who owned it, he would rent it out really cheap. He rented it to us for like $150 and for the night. And this was a place also that Ghost Adventures had went to, and we thought, well, let's go there. It looks interesting. It's not far. Like, it's probably 2.5, 3 hour drive from me, from where I'm at here. It's like on the northern border of Alabama, bordering Tennessee. And anyway, in Lincoln County Hospital, this is a 3-story place with no power. They had built a new Lincoln County Hospital, so this one was just sat there in a rundown neighborhood and was very creepy. And what happened to us there was mostly in the surgical wing. I remember when we went up there, I want to say the first time we wouldn't even go in there because there's just so much activity that had been reported to go on in the surgical wing. But this time we almost didn't go again. And not to brag on myself, but I do remember we were up there together. The girls were on either side of me, and we were like, should we go in here? We were standing at the entranceway to the surgical wing, and I was like, no, we didn't go last time, we're going this time. And I walked us in there, and I just remember it was spooky. It was kind of scary, but this is where we had some great experiences. And you could just, this is something else, if you get involved in paranormal investigation at all, it's another thing you can't prove to people unless they experience it. You feel energy, and especially if it's something you're just in tune with, which I feel like I have been my whole life, you feel that density in a place like that where all this death has occurred and all these things had occurred over the years. And in that surgical wing, there was a lot of that dense feeling, a dark feeling. We went into the surgery rooms, you could feel that heavy. But when we went into the private office of the doctors there in the surgical wing, there was still even the sign on the door that said doctors. So there was a shower in there, there were lockers still in there. We went in there and we looked in the mirror, and we were standing there together, and we took some pictures. And later when we looked back on the pictures, and in the pictures you could see a glowing green orb, and it would be in different locations in every shot. So that thing had been moving around, and it moved from the series of pictures, it moved from the mirror, and it eventually made its way toward the door. So that was interesting. But also on the EVP recorder, we caught a voice saying my name, and it said it like in a child's voice. That's how it sounded anyway. Was it really a child? I don't know. See, things like that you can't explain. We didn't say anything. When you look back at the recordings of it, it was just, you just heard us, we was not talking, but then you play back that recording later, and then there's my name, and you don't know where that came from. It's things like that you can't explain away. When you get a voice, or you get something in a spirit box, like, so that happened. But then what really spooked all three of us was we heard a disembodied voice, like a scream. That's what it was, a disembodied scream that came out from the hallway. And we all heard it because we all looked at each other like terrified, like looking at each other like, did you just fucking hear that? And we did. And also by the doctor's door, when we went back out there to look, or we near that door, we could hear mumbling out in the hallway, like people talking. But we go out there, there's nobody there. Go out in the hall, there's nobody there. Then we hear slamming doors from the distance, like metal slamming doors. Now this happened in the Ghost Adventures episode, actually. they had this same phenomenon, slamming doors, and they couldn't figure out where that was exactly coming from. So we had that happen, just like in that episode where they were there. That was spooky as hell. We felt an energy pocket on the second or third floor that we all got dizzy at the same time. Like we ran into a dense energy that made us all kind of loopy. That's a weird phenomenon. When more than one person's all feeling it at the same time, all of a sudden, you have backup because everybody's going through it. Same thing, hearing the voice, hearing the talking, you're all witnessing it together. Getting picture of the orb, getting the voice on EVP, and then down in the basement we had something thrown at us. We don't know where that came from. When we was near an elevator on the spirit box, if you've never heard one of those, basically a spirit box is like radio frequencies. It makes like a static noise coming through it, like kind of like a it's kind of like that, and voice is supposed to be able to come over that. Sometimes you get interference, but usually you can, if you do it enough, you can tell a lot of times when there's radio interference or something really crisp and clear comes through all of a sudden. Well, in this instance, the elevator dinged. Okay, there's no power in this place, no lights. The elevators don't work, but we heard a clear like dong, like the elevator was about to open right in front of us, but it came through the spirit box, and the elevator, of course, didn't open because it doesn't work. We went crazy over that too, looking at each other like, wow, well, how did that happen? So these are some experiences I've had. I've picked up, we all had picked up spirit box voices at a cemetery that we used to go to as well. So the paranormal, I just look at it as a very weird phenomenon. There's a lot of things I just think to this world from my own experiences we just don't know about. And one of the times I came back from Lincoln County, I believe I had an attachment too, and that was horrifying. For like 2 days, I felt like there was a twin of me following me around. And the reason I say a twin of me, because I had had a nightmare of it. It was in my dream, and it was looking at me with jet black eyes. And for some reason, it had no clothes on. I don't know why that is, but it had like just black eyes, like coal, looking at me. And then for the next day or so, it was following me around. So, to rid yourself of an attachment like that, you just have to try to tap into whatever you think. I mean, for me at that time, I prayed it away. I just said, you can't be here. And I still had some belief in Christianity, but I'm not going to say that took it away, because now I believe more that there's a energy we come from. I think there's more of like, if you want to call it God, you can call it God. I do think it's feminine. I do think it's a loving energy, but I don't think it's some kind of like judging individual entity or person or jealous type of thing or anything like that, or something that's trying to punish us. But I will say, yes, I did give like just standard type of prayer saying, God, take this away. You can't be here. You have to leave. And it did get off of me. It went away, and it got away from me. Now, when I clear energy, I tap into that source of what I would say is, like I said, you can call it God, you can call it source energy. I think again, this is something that is somewhat hypothesis. I mean, I can't, again, prove to you this is the way things are. I'm just giving you my own life experiences as to where now I kind of stand on some things. And I think that even by offering the prayer I offered back then, even though it was based in religion, I think it still tapped into that energy. I guess that's the best way I can explain it, and rid it. This thing got off of me. So that's the scary thing with paranormal too, is that you can attach things can attract to you and magnetize, and it's kind of like a tar, is how I would explain it. I feel like we can get kind of a tar on us. We can build up energy on us. We can build up kind of a murky type of, it's the best way I know to explain, like a murkiness on us that we have to sometimes, I think it's a good idea to clear it. And like I said, by clearing it, you can ask source energy, like I said, call it God, whatever, to clear it off of your body, off your soul, off your aura, and clear it out of your home, clear it out of your belongings, things like that. I do think that helps. I know from my own experience, I feel like this is something I've learned through time, I feel like still helps. It's not about sin, it's not about morality, punishment, judgment, hell, nothing like that. It's just energy. I just believe there's dark and light energy, and sometimes we can attract too much dark energy that can just weigh down on us. And if you get entities that aren't trying to help you attach onto you, then I think it can be problematic from my experience. So anyway, this gives you a little bit of background as to some of my experience with some of these things. And after the breakup with her in 2019, having this soul to soul thing, and I've stated before how it crushed me. It was so hard on me, the way that was ended, the way she ended that, the way that was taken away, that I was just in such a bad state of mind. And I went into trying to figure out how to get over something like this, because it was more heart-wrenching than anything I had ever experienced. And I guess when I was looking up that stuff is when I came across New Age. Somewhere along the line of looking up how to get through something like this is probably when New Age and twin flames and these types of things came up. And there's good and bad with that. I mean, I did get indoctrinated for a while in New Age stuff, but there was also valuable things that came out of that, like learning about going through meditative practices that gave me more psychic awareness and gave me some experiences I had never had before that were positive. Basically, I practiced meditation for long periods of time, and as I practiced meditation for long periods of time, it taught me about vibration, and it taught me about energy, and taught me how vibration can go low and it can go up. And with that, it's really kind of hard to explain. It's one of these things, again, you have to kind of go through, but you start to understand when you're in a lower density of energy, and you start to understand and feel when you're in a higher vibration of energy. And it seems to me when you're in that higher vibration, more opportunity can arise for you, like better outcomes in your life can happen, your day in general can go better, and the longer you can kind of maintain that, things can kind of go in a better direction. Where you're in that real low density, a lot of times you'll get stuck in negative cycles, maybe addictive cycles, maybe the depression that you, or mental illness maybe that you have, can get even more severe. And I struggle with this stuff all the time. I'm not even trying to tell you, oh, I've got it all figured out. These are just things that I have practiced before, but does that mean it's going to just suddenly get rid of your depression and suddenly get rid of your mental illness? No, I mean, it's very hard to maintain. I've had a very hard time. I've taken steps forward, I've taken steps back. Sometimes I've taken many steps forward and I've taken many steps back. Sometimes I've taken a step forward and a step back. And it's like, you know, when you've battled with personality collapses, sometimes I've thought that I have borderline personality disorder, though I've not been diagnosed with it. I have been diagnosed with bipolar before. When you have all these things happening, even if you practice meditation and you do start understanding how energy works and vibration, it doesn't mean you're not going to face challenges. You're not still going to fight with your mental issues, mental illness, or any of that. It's an ongoing challenge. It's an ongoing challenge. But these are things I started to learn after that breakup when I started going into meditation. But it also took me down a murky road of New Age where I got real involved in twin flames for a while, where I thought there was a mission. Like they get you into that thinking, oh, it's some kind of holy thing and you're supposed to get back with them at some point, and you guys are gonna be like doing this holy stuff or whatever, and that the other person's going through the same stuff. And we don't know that. I mean, we don't even know if they experience jack shit. I mean, honestly, from any of it. I mean, I'm just being honest. We don't. When you really objectively look at it and have critical thought, which it's taken me a long time to come back around to. You have to have critical thought about everything you experience and go through. And once you have critical thought about it, the truth is you don't know what this other person went through. It could have been it can be a situation where you're just meant to have the life lesson. I do think we're reincarnated, and maybe we're supposed to go through different life lessons, but you don't know what the other person's experience is. And that's just the way it is. We really don't know, but you know what you're experiencing, so you can take control of that. You know what you're going through, and you know that, I know for me, I think it was a situation meant for me to self-reflect, meant for me to see my own issues, and that's what I've come away with it now. But at that time, yeah, I got heavily involved in all that stuff for a while, and it leads you down a rabbit hole of tarot readings, of getting involved with other people commenting on channels about their experiences. And some of these people, unfortunately, will never come out of that ideology. They'll die, they'll go to their graves thinking they're supposed to be with that person or in some holy mission of some sort. They'll stay in this trap of basically another religion, of another ideology. They'll be just stuck in that. And luckily, I was able to come out of that hole. And then there's a lot of other stuff in New Age, the Galactic Federation and all these other things that cannot at all be proven with. There's these cat people on this one planet and these other aliens here and aliens here, and they're supposed to be in this group together to save, I don't know, save the universe, save the world. There's all kinds of stuff that goes into New Age mythology, just like Christian stuff. And you know, you got Christianity, you got Buddhism, you got Muslim religion, you got all these different religions, and I believe there's ideologies that go along with that. And I'm not criticizing the people. You practice what you want to practice. I think some of these things help people to be involved in, but sometimes they hurt people. They help some people and they hurt some people. Now I don't belong to any of the ideologies. When I say that I believe in a source we come from, I don't believe it's something that's trying to put us in an ideology. I just think this is a flawed world. We don't have all the answers. We're flawed people. There's a lot of things we just don't know. And that's why I say you have to kind of come back around to having critical thought. And a lot of times you hypothesize on why things are happening and delve into it and think about it. So I went into all of that for a long time, and then I dropped out of it for a little while after about 6 months, say in 2020 in the summer, and I went right back. I got fed up. I was hurting so bad because I got caught up in that twin flame ideology, so I came out of that. And, well, I decided I was just so fed up because I was still hurting so bad from that relationship that I went into darkness, extreme darkness there for a little bit. I started looking into Satanism and Anton LaVey, and I want to say that basically Satanism isn't inherently bad. It's just another religion. A lot of people belong to it. there's a lot of philosophy in Satanism, but you can take it in a very dark place. You know, of course, there are people that do that. They actually conjure things and do black magic and do all these things. And I will say I've delved into black magic before too, out of feeling so dark, and I think that had some ill effects with me too. But at this time, that's kind of what happened. I went into some black magic. I just felt so dark and so hurt, and didn't feel like the new age stuff I was getting into was helping. And there was a period there where I got back on Instagram and I was just being really, really dark. And me and her were kind of going back and forth too, with kind of hurting each other through third parties. I would say we were both wrong. That was going on, and I shouldn't have been involving myself with anything like that, but I was just hurt and struggling. And what most of those people didn't know at that time is I was going through wanting to unalive every single morning during that time. I'd wake up crying. My arms would be ice cold. My legs, I felt like there was just ice running through my veins every morning. It was a horrifying experience. And I would cry and feel like, how can I stop this pain? And I had a couple of people talking to me at the time, trying to help me through it, but it was hard. Somehow I got through that period. And what happened was eventually I went back to New Age. And this was just kind of a back and forth battle. And then at one point I went back into Christianity. And I joked about this in the last video, I think, and maybe a couple of videos where, you know, I said this is part of personality collapse, where throughout my life I've struggled with that. And okay, so you see where, okay, go to New Age, through this whole thing after this breakup, go to New Age, go to Satanism, but a dark Satanism, go to, now I met a woman at my job where she influenced me again with Christianity, so now I'm going to go into that. And now I'm going to preach. It's something I did on here, on this channel actually. I did the New Age on this same channel. There's probably a couple of people still here that know that. I did Christian preaching on this channel. It was not me though. I mean, it's just like trying to do stuff to just erase what was going on with me, and still not coming to full awareness of anything. You know, it was crazy. I have to laugh at it though. You have to have some humor about it, or you just go crazy. And a lot of times I felt like I was going crazy. So now the paranormal parts of this. The paranormal parts of this are bizarre, and that drove me crazy too. So if we go back to, this video may be a little lengthy. It already kind of is. If you're sticking around, hey, thanks for sticking around. If you don't, I understand. But anyway, going back to when I first got into New Age, the first thing that happened to me on a paranormal level, at first I thought it was this thing in New Age called Kundalini. Kundalini is this thing where, I think it's in Hinduism. It's where it originates. And the thought is you have like the metaphor, I guess, for a snake at the base of your spine. And through spiritual practice, it comes up your spine. And this energy from your sexual area, it comes up through your body. And the reason why I thought it was this is because practicing New Age at the time, I started to have these feelings that would hit me here, center of my heart. And you could say heart chakra if you want to, energy center here, but it would flood through my body and it would be orgasmic. and it was addictive. And this would happen, and it felt like it was coming from an outside source, which I think it was, like an entity that would do this to me. And it was like a spiritual companion, maybe you could call it that too, that was loving, that would do this. And through New Age ideology, you find out about Kundalini, and then you're in twin flame ideology. They talk about a lot of complicated stuff like the higher self of each of the twins. So then it's so complex though. The idea is that the higher self of each of the counterparts can, I guess that's supposed to be your pure self in that ideology, and that you're taught that that can affect the other person. And I thought maybe it was that, I mean, I look back at it now, and no, I don't think so. So I don't know what it was. Sometimes I believe it was an entity and it didn't want to harm me, but I do think it was posing as her, that it would take on, in my mind, her appearance, and it would take on, it made me feel like it was her. That's the best thing I can tell you. And it sounds crazy, sounds bizarre, and I can't say for sure if anyone, well, I did talk to a tarot reader that said this had happened to her. And there are a couple of videos I've watched where people have said something I think similar has happened, but anyway, it's a bizarre experience. Now what I think it was something, this is why I say spirits can imitate what you, I think anyway, that they can imitate whatever they want to imitate. And you have to be very careful. And I think this was an instance of that. Even though it wasn't harming me, I feel like it was something imitating. It knew the love I felt for her, so I feel like it was taking on her. So that affected me a lot, and probably was not making things better for me because of me thinking that. So that was a huge thing. Now, you could say that's horrible, but what's funny about that now is something good that came out of that experience is that now it taught me that I can have these orgasmic experiences. It showed me that it was possible. It made it to where now I'm able to move that energy from the sacral chakra, basically, if you want to call it that, or that region. Because I'm not so sure how I feel about chakras exactly, but let's say from that region move. I do think we have some kind of energy centers just based off the experiences I've had. But now I have this ability that I didn't even practice that came from that experience with whatever that entity or whatever that situation was, to where I know how it just started coming to me. I know how to move that energy up through my body without releasing anything as a male. So I can have these orgasmic experiences over and over again without ever releasing the energy. Like, for instance, right now I've been holding that energy in my body now for like almost 80 days. But I can still have those orgasmic experiences to release energy, but don't release the seed, basically. I'm trying to keep it kind of PG, I guess, for YouTube, but don't release the seed. And you ask, why do I do that? That's because I found that when you do that, you hold that energy in. For a male, this is something else I've been practicing off and on since the end of 2020, is something I had seen and wanted to practice for myself to see if it works. And I found that, yes, you get a lot more energy. I know I have. You get more psychic presence, you get more vibrational height, you get more, your vibration goes up easier. You're able to fight off your depression a little bit more. And I've tried everything. I mean, I went back to releasing it once a day. I wasn't good. There used to be a time I had problems where I was releasing it 3 or 4 times a day, and I don't even know how I survived that. I look back at that and I was like, God, no wonder I felt horrible half the time. Back then, I remember feeling so out of sorts. I feel like for a man, for myself, when you release that often, it causes more of that murkiness I was talking about, that tar and crap and things to come in and attract to you for whatever reason. So through my own experiences, I found that by having that spiritual interaction I had, it taught me how to do it myself. And it's an amazing thing, because I don't think most men in this world have no idea. And it's an amazing experience to be able to do. So that was one of the biggest things, paranormal, that's come from this. It's a spiritual companion, basically, and that's come in and out. That hasn't been with me in a while, but it's come in and out from time to time. Other things that happened that were out there for a lot of people, I would say would be out there for them, is I would go out to this park a lot. I'd go out there in the early mornings. I would go out there late at night. I'd go out there. I found that full moons were powerful. It does sound like cliche stuff you see out of a horror movie or witchcraft movie or something, but this is just from experience what I found by trying things. I would go out there and ground barefoot in the grass. And what I find is that does work. It helps release negative energy. I haven't done it in a while, to be honest with you. I probably should go back to it. But it would release, it's another way to release that murkiness, darkness, or the tar that gets caught up on you. And the more I did that, and the more I meditated doing that, and the longer I sat out there doing that, I would, and if it was a full moon too, it seemed to be even stronger, but you didn't have to have that. Sometimes I went out there during the day and did it in the sunlight. And that could be powerful, honestly, being in the sun. Not that I'm saying you should just be in the sun a lot, but spending a little time in the sun can be helpful. And what happened was my psychic presence also rose through that to heights I didn't even think were an imaginable thing, but it didn't stay there. And I think for me to have it stay there, I'd have to be practicing this all the time. Where some people, I think, have more of a natural inclination toward those psychic abilities. But what happened was, doing that, I started to touch plant life, leaves, trees, and I was feeling the energy from the trees. And it sounds crazy, it sounds bizarre. These are all things I'm telling you that people will say you're crazy. They'll deem it insane. I'm not telling you this stuff from New Age or any other ideology. I'm just telling you these are the experiences I had and things I practiced and found out that this stuff happens through doing. And the only way you would find out any of this stuff is if you went and did some of these practices and spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time. It wasn't like, it's like anything else. You have to spend a lot of time delving into it, which I did. And trees are alive, plants are alive, but the thing that's interesting is when you start grounding a lot in the grass, barefoot, or hands and feet in the grass, you start feeling the earth in a way you've never felt it. You feel it's alive and like it knows you're there. Same thing with the trees. You hear about people hugging trees. I used to think it was the silliest thing in the world, and I started doing it when I was going through this cycle of doing this for a long time. And I felt like when I would do it, the tree knew I was there. Like, whoa, it was reciprocating an energy, like a loving energy. And it was the craziest thing to me. I will admit to you, it felt bizarre, and it's addictive because once you had that ability going on, uh, you want to feel that. You want to feel that. And so that was something I went through for a while, where I was practicing this energy transfer with trees and the grass and the earth. And could I do it now? No. I would have to go back and practice it again and get that energy back up again. Do I think I could? I could. But that's why I said to you, for some of us, it's one of these things you can develop, but then you got to keep maintaining it. And then some people have more, I think, of a natural ability, like the psychics you hear about that are legit, that can go out and find where missing people are and stuff like that, and where people have been buried and we don't know where they're at, and those type of people that have that ability. Some people, I think, are more naturally inclined toward it. But these things I'm telling you about myself, all of these things happened after that breakup. And I've been on this 5-year journey where I went through all of that. And then I went through my personality just collapsing again and again. And it is something that I'm still here, because you feel like you're going mad. And it took me up until earlier this year, that I said, okay, I'm going to therapy. And I got to, I finally started to understand my self-awareness on a level that I hadn't, and started to come more into what I believe now is the closest to authenticity I've been, and started to admit things to myself of who I am and what I feel, and how realizing there's so many things I would hide to be friends with certain people, and so many things I would hide to go out with somebody, or it's just not worth it. I mean, because it all ends up blowing up in your face by doing stuff like that. So I don't have medical insurance. If you know anything about the United States, our medical system it's just shit. Maybe something I'll talk about another time. But in any case, lucky enough, I found a place that doesn't charge me to go to therapy. And I ended up, just luck of the draw, getting a fantastic therapist. And I was reluctant to go, because I was like, if I tell her any of this stuff I just telling you guys, what's going to happen? But come to find out, she's had experiences in her life that she can't explain. And really, a lot of my worrying was for nothing. I told her I thought I was maybe schizophrenic, but she said, based on I don't know what she really based it off of, but she just said, well, no, she said, I just think the world's a crazy place, and you've been through some shit. Her words were actually, you've been through a lot of shit. And crazy things happen to people. And she said she's had paranormal things she can't explain. And I think thousands of people have, some talk about it, some don't. Some feel like they're going to be labeled a certain way. Again, it's society. You got to fit into a neat box for this person and that person. You got to be a certain way to be friends with this person and that person. You better say the right thing to go out with that person. That's just bullshit, guys. I mean, I've had to learn the hard way. And I'm just telling you now, it's exhausting to live like that. And I know it's just exhausting. So anyway, I knew this was going to be a lengthy video. If you stuck around, hey, thank you. I don't blame you if you didn't. And I've seen a lot of new people have subscribed. I appreciate that. And thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys later on.